As announced in yesterday's video, you guys sent me various builds on Twitter and I will check them out in today's video. I will give you my opinion on my feels of the build and maybe what could be adjusted, what could be improved. The working title of this video will be Rate My Build. Depending on how it is received, I may make this a series or not if you guys don't like it. So please make sure to like or dislike the video depending on how you feel about it and comment down below what you think. Let's look into the first builds. The first build we have here comes from Dave the Quacken. It's an Aphrodite solo build. He actually made a little mistake. He corrected himself later. He wanted this boots to be pen boots, and that's what we're going to look at. So the build we have here is pen boots, Warlock Sash, Shield of Regrowth, Void Stone, Spirit Robe, and Chronos Pendant. I think this is a very interesting build, but I also see some flaws with it. The first thing you have to keep in mind here is that you're gonna be against a solo laner that most likely has some potential to bully an Aphrodite, because most solo laners do. So starting with Warlock Sash before getting some sort of like specific defense, for example Breastplate of Valor, is always gonna make it very hard for you, and you really have to work around that. Shield of Regrowth I think is a very interesting choice, but I am not entirely sure if she benefits the most from it. It works together with the Warlocks, but it's kind of an iffy one, I would say. Void Stone is actually a decent item in terms of extra defense and damage. I would only pick it when you need it, when you really need that extra reduction and you need the magical defense, so it's more of a situational for me. Spirit Robe I do like, the problem is it doesn't really fit into this build. If you want to go Shield of Regrowth, then you overcap CDR if you also get Chronos Pendant. So you're better off choosing between one of the two, and as you already have a decent amount of health from Warlocks, I would probably go with Spirit Robe over Shield of Regrowth here. If you don't really want that effect, in that case, get a more situational defense item instead of Spirit Robe that doesn't have CDR necessarily. Chronos Pendant I like very much here, the cooldown reset is really good for her. I would want to see a Rod of Asclepius in there somewhere, maybe in a place of the Shield of Regrowth. You still get some extra movement speed and just is a little more helpful overall as a healer. I think if you work on that CDR cap and maybe some initial other defense depending on the situation, it can work. Once again, Aphrodite is not the greatest solo laner at the moment though. The next build is an Apollo ADC build, a very traditional build here actually. Gecko wants to know if this works out. Ninja Tabi, Devils, Poison Star, Wind Demon, Titan's Bane, Deathbringer. You probably want to start this off with a Death Toll before you go into Ninja Tabi. Other than that, it's a pretty solid build. You could swap out Titan's Bane for Executioner here to get some extra attack speed, get your procs off a little more reliably, but that's down to taste, and if you want to split push a lot, then I can see the reasoning for Titan's Bane. Not much to complain about with this build. Gorgonzola comes in with a little less serious build, Apollo Support, Tank Boots, Frostbound, Fatalis, Stone of Gaia, Bulwark of Hope, and Mystical Mel. I mean, if you really want to support with Apollo, I would say ditch the Fatalis, he doesn't really make use of it in that regard. Frostbound is nice to support your team that way. Instead, go Sovereignty, just get some physical defense in that build, it's kind of lacking that, and get some aura for your team. Or maybe even Thebes. Also, Mystical Mail on Apollo is basically getting Mystical Mail on Kumba, you're breaking your own mess. What the hell, don't do that. The next one is from Impersonage. The build here is a Baku support build. Shoes of the Magi, Sovereignty, Shogun's Kusari, Gauntlet of Thebes, Stone of Gaia, Mantle of Discord. Overall, a very good build, I think. You start off with some early damage that Bakus can make use of, then you go into some tankiness for your team, some health, some sustain. Then you have some magical defense and MP5. CDR on top of that, and the nice extra benefit from Shoguns. I usually would prefer Thebes first, but I really see the reasoning for getting Shoguns first on Baku simply due to the fact how much he benefits from CDR, for example. Then Thebes, very good. Stone of Gaia, I would say, is still a situational. It's a strong item at the moment, but, well, only really get it when you need it. And as Bacchus has knock-up immunity in his kit, I don't think he will need it all too often. So there is there are better options for that, maybe just Spirit Rope or something like that. And Metal of Discord, obviously, always gonna be good, just very expensive. The next one is from Bunny Wabbit. It's a mid-Bakasura one, very interesting. The build here is Silverbench Bow, Heartseeker, Hastened Stonecutting, Executioner, and Bloodforge. Now, Silverbranch I can see, Heartseeker I can definitely not see. I know it's supposed to like supplement boots here, but Heartseeker on Bakasura just doesn't make much sense because he's not building much into power. He's gonna use a lot of swings and not try to like get all of his damage off in one ability, so really no point in building that. You're just better off with Ninja Tabi right there. Hasten Fatalis, sure, it's a good item on him. Stonecutting Sword as well, absolutely. Executioner too, that's all fine. You're absolutely missing out on Kinsai, so and if you have so much attack speed in your build already, then you better build Kinsai. Bloodforge, I think, can be done, but honestly, with the new effect of Soldier, I'd probably even prefer that on Bakasura, despite of it not having power simply because of him actually being able to proc it relatively reliably. I would say that you're gonna be having a very rough time with Bakasura in mid most of the time, but, well, that's down to you. Next up, we have a Bastet jungle build from Kimyu. With this build, there may be some sort of explanation behind it that I don't understand, that I would have had to have for it to get it, and I explicitly said I don't want further explanations. The build is Bambas, Waritabi, Hydra's Lament, Breastplate of Valor, the Crusher, Sunder Upgrade, Relic Dagger, Titan's Bane, Cell, Breastplate of Valor for Mantle of Discord. Now, there is something that's severely missing in this build, and that's penetration. Bastet is actually one of the gods who make the most use out of penetration because she's so ability focused, and you're basically skipping it entirely. You want Jotuns over Hydras on Bastet. I did a Hydras build once, but that was just to fuck around. I don't recommend actually building that. Breastplate doesn't really make too much sense on her because you'd be better off getting more pen. You're still lacking pen on your third item there. You should also probably consider getting Bluestone Pendant early for extra clear because the clear is not that great and helps with early aggression. Crusher is good, but not the best item for her. I think Brawlers is now better, especially with that, well, changed values on Crusher. Sunder Upgrade, I guess you could, but it's not really core of a build in my opinion, and I also think that Sunder is not that great for her. And, well, Relic Dagger extends the duration, and I guess you can make people bleed relatively long and hit them with the cats, but I don't think it's worth it because she's not going to be a late game boxer. So this is a build where I will say just maybe reconsider a lot of it, go into a lot more penetration. Penetration cooldown reduction is usually the mix, and if you want to go Discord right away because Breastplate is just too one-sided defense and too expensive for what it offers for a jungler. Luchak asked about a solo Bellona build. His build is Reinforced Greaves, Height of the Urchin, Gauntlet of Thebes, Masamune, Bulwark of Hope, Titan's Bane. Now, the problem that I have with this build is that you're only building into like heavy stacking defense early on. Bellona's not that weak in lane and she has decent potential to bully the enemies by building Reinforced Greaves plus Height of the Urchin. You're basically sacrificing any sort of early aggression in favor of late game stacks. Gauntlet of Thebes is something that should usually be built on the support, so you don't really need that because you're gonna make use of that aura exactly once. Masamune, I think, doesn't really make sense. It's an item that, you know, requires you to be in the thick of things, but then it doesn't really have enough defensive stats for that to be worth it. It doesn't really synergize in itself with the power. Once again, I think like Spirit Drop is just the better version of it. So there, I would say just switch it out for something else. Bulwark of Hope and Titan's Bane is fine, just to get some extra damage going. But realistically, this build just doesn't really take advantage of her kit, of maybe making use of the AA benefits that she has and stuff like that. So, well, if you have to frontline very, very hard, I get the idea, but you wouldn't know about that very early in the game unless you're playing with, for example, a Capri maybe. Other than that, I don't really see the purpose, and I would definitely ditch the Masamune. Dan Cooper has a build for Cabrakan Jungle. Pen Boots, Dynasty Playtime, Voidstone, Spear of Desolation, Polynomicon, Soul Reaver, Blink and Sprint. Now this build is nothing new, it's actually quite common. It's the face punch Cabrakan basically, the fat Loki build, whatever you want to call it. It benefits off all that extra flat pen that you have, the protection reduction, and then Soul Reaver and Poly for just extra burst. I think you can do that and you're gonna burst people. Problem is, if anyone locks you down, you're dead, because you just have no defense and Cabrakan is not that hard to lock down. I would propose instead to implement Height of the Urchin at some point of their build. Maybe before Voidstone or maybe before Spear of Desolation, or maybe instead of Spear of Desolation. At that point you have enough flat pain to burst people and the rest of the build is gonna be enough for that. And you're gonna be able to get stacks because you're already bursting pretty hard. And it will just allow you to survive much more and do more team fights. Maybe even consider throwing a gem of isolation in there, just to have some more utility for your team as well. It's once again depending on which level of play this is in. If people don't know how to lock you down, you will burst them over and over and over. But if people get the idea what you're building, then they will just probably focus you down very easily, and it's gonna hurt. The next build is by Ari. It's a Camelot solo build, Warrior Boots, Gladiator Shield, Spirit Robe, Shield of Regrowth, Runic Shield, Titan's Bane. I have hardly any complaints with this build. I think it's very good. Obviously, you're missing out the starter, but it's either gonna be Death Toll or Bluestone. Most of the time, I guess Death Toll. What you could do is maybe switch around Shield of Regrowth and Spirit Robe if the enemy matchup allows for it, because it gives you some more early aggression, some more kill potential. Other than that, really, really good. Runic Shield is something that I would replace with Situational. Sometimes you get Runic Shield and sometimes you just get other items that help you more in that situation. Maybe, for example, even Mantle of Discord if you need more defense, if you need to frontline a little more. But that's, you know, just in specific situations. Val has a Chiron support build, very interesting choice. The build is a War Flag, Jotun's Wrath, Witchblade, Reinforced Greaves, Shield of Regrowth, Brawler's Beatstick. I feel like if you're actually gonna play support, you wanna go full on support with an ADC. I would get the Reinforced Greaves earlier, I would ditch the Jotun's Wrath, I would probably ditch the Brawler's Beatstick as well. The Witchblade and Shield of Regrowth can stay, but you wanna have something like an aura item, you wanna have at least like Garden of Thebes for your allies anyways, maybe Sovereignty. And you maybe want to have something along the lines of Frostbound Hammer as well, just to have some more CC outside of what you have in your kit already, just so you can set up somewhat decently as an ADC, which are not primarily designed to do exactly that. If you go into so much damage, then you're not really playing a support build anymore. There are a bunch of builds that I haven't gone through yet. I have gotten loads and loads of builds on Twitter, and I want to know from you guys if you want to see more of this. If you like this, please let me know. Please like the video so I can see that people are actually interested in this kind of stuff, and then I will make sure to make more of those. If not, I will definitely still go through those that are still that are already here, all the builds, and maybe do that on my stream. If there's no interest in it, it's up to you guys. You guys really decide here if you want to make this a continuing series or if this is just a one-time thing that was, well, not that great. If it is gonna be a continuing series, then I will, in, well, a certain amount of time when I've gone through all the ones that I already have, do the same thing on Twitter again and tweet out a specific time for you guys to post your builds, and I will then get them all into my collection. It's simply the easiest way for me to answer questions like this that way, because I get questions about builds very frequently. I just can't answer them all anymore at this point. I think this is a very good way for me to do that. I just don't know if it's interesting for you. With that, thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to, like I said, comment, like, subscribe maybe if you haven't yet. Duke Sloth, out.